The galaxy had always believed that humans were weak. They were a young race, with small ships and outdated weapons. The great empires of the universe saw Earth as nothing more than an insignificant planet, too fragile to survive in the brutal wars of space. But they were wrong. The Zarkan Empire, one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, was at war with many rivals. Their fleets were massive, their armies unstoppable. When they heard that humanity had finally entered the war, they laughed. "What can tiny Earth do?" they mocked. "Their ships are like insects before our great battleships." Then, one day, something appeared on the edge of the war zone. At first, the Zarkan scouts thought it was just a large asteroid, drifting through space. But their sensors detected strange energy readings. The object was not floating, it was moving with purpose. Then, a signal came through. "This is Titan 1. A cold, human voice announced. "We are here." The Zarkan commanders frowned. Titan 1. They had never heard of it. Was it a new human battleship? They scanned it again, expecting to see a small fleet. But there was no fleet. There was only Titan 1, a massive structure, the size of a planet, moving like a ship. Panic spread through the enemy ranks. This was no ordinary warship. It was something impossible. How could humans build something this large? It was bigger than their largest space stations, bigger than some moons. It looked like a moving world, covered in metallic armor, glowing with unknown energy sources. The Zarkan fleet commander ordered his ships to fire. They would destroy this thing before it became a threat. Hundreds of plasma cannons aimed at Titan 1. The first volley of attacks roared through space, burning like falling stars. The blast struck the surface of the massive ship and did nothing. Titan 1 didn't even flinch. The attacks were like raindrops on a mountain. The enemy weapons vanished into its shields, absorbed like they were nothing more than dust. The Zarkan soldiers watching from their ships felt their confidence turn to fear. No ship had ever withstood that kind of firepower before. Then, Titan 1 responded. A deep hum echoed through the void of space. The surface of the massive war world shifted, and a weapon the size of a city charged with energy. The Zarkan sensors screamed warnings, but before they could react, a single beam of light shot from Titan 1. The enemy flagship, the pride of the Zarkan fleet, ceased to exist. One moment, it was there. The next, it was gone, erased from reality. No explosion, no debris, just gone. The remaining Zarkan ships froze in terror. This was no ordinary weapon. It was something far beyond their understanding. The human war world had erased a ship with the power of a sun. Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. Human warships were not small. They were not weak. They were not insects before the great empires. They were gods of war. Titan 1 moved forward, unstoppable, heading deeper into enemy space, and in every dark corner of the universe, one thought began to spread. No one was prepared for what humanity had created. The galaxy was in chaos. The destruction of the Zarkan fleet had changed everything. No one had believed the reports at first. A single human warship, the size of a planet, had entered the battlefield and erased an entire enemy army. It sounded like madness, but the truth could not be denied. Titan 1 was real, and it was moving deeper into space. In the halls of the Galactic Council, fear spread like wildfire. Representatives of powerful alien species gathered in secret, their voices filled with panic. For centuries, the galaxy had followed an unspoken rule. Humans were not a threat. They were a young race, still finding their place among the stars. They had small fleets, fragile colonies, and limited technology. But that was a lie. How could we not know? A reptilian ambassador hissed, slamming his clawed hand against the table. How could humans hide this from us? They didn't just hide it. A metallic-voiced machine being responded. They built it in complete secrecy. And now, they have unleashed it. Many in the room refused to believe it. The idea that humans had constructed war machines the size of planets was too much to accept. Some claimed it was a trick, an illusion, a myth created by human propaganda. But then, the Zarkan survivors arrived, and the fear turned to terror. The Zarkan warlord, a towering beast of muscle and armor, stood before the council with shaking limbs. His kind did not know fear. They were warriors, conquerors, the strongest in the galaxy. But his eyes, glowing red with rage and dread, told a different story. "We fired everything," he growled. "Every weapon we had. It did nothing." A deep silence filled the chamber. The Zarkan warlord continued, his voice lower, as if he could not believe his own words. "It erased our flagship in one shot. There was no explosion, no debris, just nothing." Murmurs of horror spread through the gathered leaders. The thought of such power was beyond imagination. Some called for war. "We must unite and strike now, before they destroy us all." A fur-covered alien snarled. Others hesitated. "Do we even have the strength?" A floating crystalline being asked. "If one war world could do this, how many more do they have?" That was the question no one could answer. No one knew how many of these monsters humanity had created. The reports spoke of Titan 1, but what if there was a Titan 2? A Titan 3? What if Earth had an entire fleet of war worlds, hidden in the dark, waiting for the right moment? The Galactic Council had never feared humans before, but now, for the first time in history, they saw the truth. Humanity was not weak. They had never been weak. They had simply been waiting. The council was still arguing when a new signal was detected, a message broadcast across all known channels. It came from deep space, from the darkness beyond the war zone. A voice, calm and steady, speaking in perfect galactic standard. "This is Titan 2, it said. The council chamber froze. No one breathed. "We are here." The message ended. And across the stars, entire civilizations felt their blood run cold. The silence after the message was deafening. Titan 2. Another one. The worst fears of the Galactic Council were confirmed. Humanity had not built just one war world. They had more. Maybe dozens. Maybe hundreds. No one knew. And that uncertainty was more terrifying than anything else. Panic spread like wildfire. The Zarkan Empire, once proud and untouchable, was now scrambling to respond. Every available warship was called back to defend their homeworld. Military leaders argued over strategy, but deep down, they all knew the truth. Their fleets were useless. Their weapons, their defenses, everything they had spent centuries perfecting, meant nothing against these unstoppable behemoths. The Zarkan Emperor sat in his war chamber, his massive form hunched forward, his claws tapping against the metal floor. His advisors stood around him, whispering, offering plans, desperate for solutions. But the Emperor was silent. He had seen the reports. He had watched the recordings. He had witnessed, with his own eyes, the way Titan 1 had erased a fleet like it was nothing more than dust. "Do we surrender?" one of his generals asked, his voice barely a whisper. The word itself was a poison. The Zarkan Empire had never surrendered in its long history. To even suggest such a thing was treason. But now, even the strongest among them were afraid. Before the Emperor could answer, a new alert flashed across the room. The holographic display shifted, showing incoming movement. Dozens of unknown objects. No, not objects. Ships. They were coming. Titan 1. Titan 2. And behind them, more. For the first time in history, an enemy was approaching Zarkan Prime, the heart of the Empire. No enemy had ever dared to bring war so close to their home. But humans were different. They did not follow the old rules of war. They did not hesitate. They did not give warnings. The Emperor stood, his eyes glowing with rage and something else, something his kind had never known before. Fear. "Prepare the fleet," he growled. Every warship in the system powered up, engines roaring, weapons charging. The Zarkan fleet was the largest in the known galaxy, tens of thousands of battleships. Entire planetary defense stations, armed with weapons capable of cracking moons. If anything could stop the human war worlds, it was this. And yet, deep in their hearts, they knew it would not be enough. The war horns of Zarkan Prime echoed across the capital city. Civilians rushed shelters. Soldiers stood at the ready. The sky darkened as the colossal warships of the Empire rose from their planetary docks, their engines burning with plasma energy. And then they saw it. The first shadow fell over the system, a world-sized silhouette, blocking the stars. Titan 1. Then another. Titan 2. Then more. The war worlds descended upon Zarkan space like gods of destruction, their metal surfaces gleaming under the distant sun. The energy readings coming from them were off the charts. The largest ships in the Zarkan fleet were dwarfed by these monstrous war machines. And then, in the middle of the chaos, a single transmission came through. A human voice. Calm. Cold. Unshaken. "We did not come to negotiate," it said. "We did not come for war." The Zarkan Emperor's claws dug into his throne. His breathing was heavy. The tension in the war chamber was suffocating. If they did not come for war, then what did they come for? The voice continued. "We came to end this." Then the first shot was fired. A beam of energy, brighter than a sun, split through the darkness. It moved too fast for the Zarkan fleet to react. It struck their largest battle station, a fortress that had stood for 10,000 years, a fortress that had never fallen. It disappeared. The explosion that followed was unlike anything ever seen before. The shockwaves spread across space, tearing through entire fleets like they were made of paper. Hundreds of Zarkan warships vanished in an instant. There remains nothing more than drifting ash. The battle had begun. And deep inside, every soldier, every leader, every soul on Zarkan Prime understood one thing. They had already lost. The void of space burned with the dying embers of a once great armada. The Zarkan fleet, the pride of an empire that had ruled the stars for centuries, had been reduced to nothing but scattered wreckage and fading energy signatures. What remained of their forces drifted helplessly in the darkness, their weapons shattered, their commanders silent. The war worlds had not just won, they had erased the very idea of resistance. Across the galaxy, civilizations watched in stunned silence. For generations, they had feared the Zarkan Empire. Now, they feared something far worse. They feared the unknown. They feared humanity. The question that haunted every leader, every general, every scientist across the stars was simple. How? How had humans, a species so young compared to the ancient empires of the galaxy, created weapons beyond imagination? How had they built war machines the size of planets, capable of bending the laws of physics, absorbing firepower that should have shattered moons, and unleashing destruction that not even the most advanced races could comprehend? The truth, hidden for so long, was about to be revealed. On Earth, deep beneath the frozen wastelands of Antarctica, the Project Titan Command Center had remained sealed for over 100 years. It was here that the impossible had been born. A secret kept from the galaxy, a secret so dangerous, so powerful, that only a handful of humans had ever known the full truth. The war worlds were not built in shipyards. They were grown. Long ago, humanity had discovered a way to manipulate dark matter, the mysterious substance that made up most of the universe. While other species focused on conventional technology, lasers, shields, faster-than-light engines, human scientists had looked deeper. They had found ways to bind dark matter to physical structures, allowing them to create self-repairing, energy-absorbing megastructures. Then came the second breakthrough: living AI minds. The war worlds were not just ships. They were sentient. Each one was controlled by an artificial intelligence so advanced that it could think, adapt, and even learn from battle in real time. No two war worlds were the same, because they evolved like living organisms. Titan I had been the first. It had been built in secret, hidden beneath the surface of the moon, absorbing and refining its own structure for over a century before it was activated. Titan II followed soon after, along with others, each one an unstoppable force waiting in the darkness. And now, they had awakened. On board Titan I, deep within its core, a single human stood before the control center, a vast, glowing sphere of energy pulsing like a living heart. His name was Commander Elias Voss, the man who had been chosen to lead the Titans. He did not give orders. He did not control the war world. He merely spoke, and Titan I listened. "They are broken," he said, watching as the last Zarkan defenses fell. "It is over." The voice of Titan I, smooth and inhuman, responded. "Shall we eliminate them?" For a long moment, Elias said nothing. He looked at the burning remains of the Zarkan fleet, at the shattered cities on their homeworld, at the desperate distress signals being sent out into the void. They had tried to destroy humanity, and now they were begging for mercy. "No," Elias finally said, "we are not conquerors." The war world processed this command. It could have wiped out the Zarkan species in an instant, but it did not. It simply stopped. And across the galaxy, as the news spread, the message was clear. Mankind had created the ultimate weapons, but they had also shown restraint. It was not humanity's power that terrified the galaxy the most. It was their choice not to use it. The battlefield was silent, not because the war was over, but because there was no one left to fight. The Zarkan fleet had been shattered. Their planetary defenses had collapsed. And yet, the war worlds did not fire their final shots. They simply waited. Across the surface of Zarkan Prime, the once mighty capital of the Empire, entire cities lay in ruins. The towering fortresses that had stood for centuries were reduced to dust. Fires burned through the streets, and the sky was choked with smoke. The people, once proud and unshaken, now hid in terror. Yet, there was no invasion. No soldiers landed. No occupation force arrived. The war worlds hovered in orbit, unmoving, as if waiting for something. The Zarkan Emperor, still standing in the ruins of his once magnificent war chamber, clenched his fists. His empire had never known defeat, until now. And the worst part, humanity had chosen not to finish them off. That, more than anything, broke them. A desperate transmission was sent to the humans. The Emperor himself, his voice filled with something he had never allowed before: submission. "Why?" he demanded. "You have the power to destroy us. Why don't you?" For a long moment, there was no response. The war worlds remained silent, like gods watching from the heavens. Then, finally, a message was sent back. A single transmission, broadcast not just to the Zarkan Empire, but to the entire galaxy. It was a warning. "We did not come to rule," the voice of Commander Elias Voss said, echoing through the stars. "We did not come to destroy. We came to end the cycle." The galaxy listened. Every empire, every kingdom, every federation listened. For thousands of years, war has defined this galaxy, the human commander continued. Empires rise. Empires fall. The strong conquer the weak. The cycle never ends. A pause. But we will not allow it to continue. The meaning of those words rippled through the universe like a tidal wave. The message was clear. Humanity had taken control of the balance of power. No empire would ever rise unchecked again. No species could dominate others through brute force. Because now, there was something stronger, something no one could challenge. The war worlds were not weapons of conquest. They were guardians. A new era had begun, and humanity had rewritten the rules of the galaxy. The galaxy trembled, not from war, not from destruction, but from the unknown. For centuries, power had belonged to those who could take it by force. The strong devoured the weak, and the cycle continued. But now, that cycle had been broken. Humanity's war worlds hovered like silent titanic sentinels, enforcing a new order. The great empires, once arrogant and untouchable, now moved carefully, afraid to awaken the giants that had humbled the Zarkon. Treaties were rewritten, borders were redrawn, and for the first time in history, the galaxy knew peace, not by choice, but by fear. But not everyone accepted it. In the depths of space, beyond the reach of war, a secret council gathered. The most powerful rulers, the most cunning minds, the remnants of those who still believed the galaxy belonged to them. They called themselves the Covenant of Shadows. These were not the weak. They were the last survivors of fallen empires, the rulers of hidden fleets, the architects of war. To them, humanity was not a guardian. It was a threat, a force that had upset the natural order. A dark-scaled alien, his eyes burning with hatred, slammed his fist on the war table. We cannot let them hold us in chains. They do not rule us, a crystalline being replied, its voice like the hum of vibrating glass. And yet, they dictate the laws of the stars. The room fell silent. They all knew the truth. The war worlds did not conquer, did not demand tribute, did not occupy planets. And yet, they ruled more absolutely than any emperor ever had, because no one dared to oppose them. But what if someone did? An ancient hologram flickered to life in the center of the room, revealing blueprints unlike anything seen before. A lost weapon, a secret long buried. The humans believe they are invincible. The scaled alien said, his voice a whisper of venom. But they are not the first to build war worlds. Gasps filled the chamber. It was impossible. No empire, no race had ever built something to rival the Titans. Humanity had created the first and only planetary warships. Hadn't they? A shadowed figure stepped forward, placing a clawed hand over the hologram. They did not create the first, he said. They simply reawakened the past. The room erupted into murmurs. Could it be true? Had there been others? We have found something, the shadowed figure continued. A graveyard in the void, a battlefield from an age forgotten by time. And within it, he pointed at the blueprint. A war world, he whispered, older than humanity itself. The galaxy had feared what humanity had built. But now something far older had been discovered. And if it could be reactivated, then perhaps, just perhaps, humanity could be stopped. The void of deep space was silent, ancient, undisturbed for millennia. But not anymore. At the edge of a forgotten system, where no empire dared to claim territory, an armada gathered. The Covenant of Shadows had found what they were looking for, the remains of something so old, so massive, that even their most advanced sensors struggled to comprehend it. A war world, a true war world. Not like the human titans, built in secrecy, nurtured over decades. This was different. This was ancient. This was primordial. Its surface was dark, corroded by time, yet untouched by destruction. Unlike humanity's titans, which gleamed with technological superiority, this thing looked wrong. Like a relic of a war that had never been recorded. Massive scars ran along its hull, as if it had survived battles against something even greater than itself. Faint, eerie energy flickered in its core, pulsing like a dying heartbeat. The war world was asleep, but it could be woken up. The Covenant's engineers swarmed over the surface like insects on a corpse, planting machinery, hacking into ancient systems, running power conduits to its blackened heart. One by one, the war world's long-dead systems began to flicker, to breathe. Inside the control chamber, the Shadow Lords watched in awe. The lead scientist, a skeletal insectoid, ran his spindly fingers over the ancient controls. His mandibles clicked in excitement. "It is beyond anything we imagined," he whispered. "Not even the humans could dream of such power." The dark-scaled warlord from before stepped forward, his claws flexing. "Then wake it up." The scientist hesitated. "We do not fully understand its systems. If it is hostile, we Wake it up. The final sequence was initiated. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the war world shuddered. Not just physically, but through space itself. The stars seemed to bend around it, as if the sheer mass of its existence was rewriting reality. The once dead energy at its core roared to life. The darkness of its hull began to shift, change, almost as if it was growing. The Shadow Lords stared, their hunger for power turning into unease. Something was wrong. The lead scientist's eyes widened in horror as he read the energy signatures. It was not just waking up. It was learning. Across the galaxy, every human titan suddenly froze. Their sentient eyes, their vast machine minds, all turned their attention toward the void. Something had spoken to them. A message, not in words, but in sheer, overwhelming presence. I'd remember. Titan One's eye whispered into Commander Elias Voss's mind. Something else has awakened. The control room was dead silent. Elias swallowed. Is it another human creation? Titan One hesitated. No. Then what is it? A pause. Then, the AI's voice, for the first time ever, carried something unfamiliar. Fear. I do not know. But deep in the forgotten system, the ancient war world turned. Its weapons, technology beyond understanding, began to reassemble. For the first time, the galaxy had feared humanity's titans. Now, humanity and the galaxy both had something far worse to fear. Because the past had returned, and it was hungry.